Welcome to Life Recovery Today with Stephen Arterburn. In the next half hour, you'll obtain insights and tools to transform your life using the biblical principles found in the 12-step program. We believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience because we all have struggles in life. Struggles with addictions, food, depression, anxiety, and relationships, to name a few. You'll be encouraged to see how others have found a new way of life with hope for the future through life recovery. Your host is Steve Arterburn, founder of New Life Ministries and Women of Faith, author of over 100 books, and teaching pastor at Northview Church in Carmel, Indiana, one of the 20 largest churches in America. Steve is the co-editor of the Life Recovery Bible, the #1 selling recovery Bible. With over 3 million copies sold, this is the Bible given to inmates by Prison Fellowship and the Pew Bible for the Salvation Army. Now here's Steve.
Welcome to Life Recovery Today. Steve Arterburn here. I think you're going to be really interested in today's interview because it is the husband of the woman we interviewed last week, and I think you'll find it fascinating and helpful. But before we do, I want to talk to you about one of the 12 gifts of life recovery. And one of those gifts is the gift of healing. And you know, when we get into recovery, we're going to experience healing if we'll work the steps and do the things that we need to do. For instance, there's a scripture that says James 5, 5th chapter of James, it's James 5:16, and it says, confess your sins one to another that you might be healed. So, you know, that's a pretty direct result of doing something, is it produces a healing effect, or it is healing, or for some people, the secrecy is relieved, and it's so powerful to be free from the secrecy that you find all sorts of different kinds of healing. Now, we are kind of built to cover up. We're kind of born, bred, and wired to not just jump out there with all of the weakness and all of the defects that we have. And we have to really work through that. Well, how do you do it? Well, you start to value humility more than pride. I'm never going to tell you who I am and what I'm going through if I'm prideful. And I want my image to be something that it isn't. And whenever that happens, of course, then the church we go to is infected with duplicity. And many churches, that's what they're all about, is duplicity. The people talk one way in church, they act one way in church, and then when they're out of church, it's totally different. So what I want to see people do is to get comfortable with opening up before other folks, to be able to state what is true about your life, especially the broken part, because that's going to motivate other people to come in and say what they're struggling with, to be open and honest about it. I think it's astounding what it's like to be in secrecy, privacy, shame, isolation. It's astounding to see the difference when I finally step up, do the tough thing, and share the truth about my life with someone else. Well, we're going to talk about the truth with McDonald right after this. Unfaithful, but oh my goodness, what a restoration and recovery that he and Laura have experienced. And we'll do all of that right after this. Stay tuned, please.
Are you going through your struggles alone? Do you want someone to talk to help you through your pain? Do you feel like a failure when you relapse again, telling yourself, next time will be different? Don't walk this path alone anymore. Join a life recovery group today and be a person that your friends and family can be proud of. God created us to be in community, and we believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience. There are life recovery groups all over the country, and if there isn't one in your area, we can help you start one. Life Recovery brings recovery to you, right where you are. You'll take a journey with others to find healing and freedom. Whether you're looking to join a group or start one, New Life Ministries is here for you. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE or visit liferecoverytoday.net.
Welcome back to Life Recovery Today. Steve Arterburn here, and my guest is Rod McDonald. Rod, welcome to the program. Thanks for joining me.
Hey, thank you for having me, Steve. It's a pleasure.
Now, Rod, you were a successful attorney. You were doing great stuff. Am I right about that? That things were kind of going well career-wise?
Yeah, I think that I'd been practicing corporate law for about almost 30 years, I guess, at the time. That we're talking about now. But I'd had success in many areas, right? Successful marriage to a wonderful woman, family, kids, grandkids, friends, good church. I mean, by all accounts, a lot of stuff going for me.
Well, I think that's really helps us to understand when you tell us this next little piece. So you had a lot of things going for you. You have a very bright wife. She's attractive. You were successful, many, many different types of success. What do you think was the key factor in just setting yourself up or being open to a connection, an emotional connection with somebody you weren't married to? What do you think was missing or led up to that or allowed it to happen?
I think many of those issues were you had directly addressed them in your lead-in, right? I mean, intended or not, I think that was the perfect segue into this discussion, right? I think what left me open was being closed, right? I mean, I did not have a healthy self-awareness, right? I was raised in a family where with four of us, we were all siloed off. We didn't process feelings or emotions, never learned to really be vulnerable or to really grow up as a man in a healthy way, right? I mean, I think in many ways, I think what Laura would say was time and trauma came together when I was about 14, and that's kind of the way I stayed, right? As an adolescent in a grown-up world. So I couldn't process well and relate well to an adult grown woman who, like Laura, who was, demanded the things that a wife demands, right? Respect and comfort and security and openness and honesty. So it was easier to, with some other stressors, related to jobs and things in the background, it was easier to make myself available to a fantasy relationship than it was to actually deal with the hard work of managing a marriage and a real life.
Yeah. Well, Rod, when somebody has an affair and they're not very successful and they've lost a lot and not doing well, then it's easy for people to say, well, no wonder, you were trying to medicate your failure or deny it or whatever, make it better. And so this relationship helped that. But I'm wondering in your case, because you were successful, do you think this thing of, if you have all this stuff together and you're doing well, your expectations of how that's going to make you feel are way up here. And then when you have it and you're succeeding and it doesn't feel way up here, it's down here, do you think that makes it even worse? That you were expecting things to be so great and when they're not, you become open to anything that could make you feel better?
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Steve. I think it was in many ways, it was like a drug that I was using to medicate from just a feeling of worthlessness, right? I'd never grown up with strong self-confidence. I always felt a little bit like a poser in my job, like I was going to be discovered at some point as not really knowing anything or being capable of doing what I'm being asked to do. I felt overmatched by Laura in many ways. I mean, Laura is what I would call a relentless processor, right? I mean, and she has high expectations, and I was not feeling successful despite many of the outward indicators, right? So, yeah, I think, I kind of drifted from whatever my purpose was, not realizing that I was right where God wanted me to be all along, right? And as I drifted and became a little bit more dissatisfied and closed off yeah, I was very disappointed, right?
Yeah.
Because I had achieved so many things by some other
Right.
objective measures.
Okay, so when you were involved with this young woman who was much younger, your wife says, she saw this, it didn't look right. But did you feel like you were deceiving everybody, that nobody could really see what was going on there, the connection?
Maybe for a little while. I mean, I believe my expectation all along was that everything was going to blow up, right? I mean, these
Okay.
things
Wow.
never stay secret for long, right? So, I mean, I made probably every mistake you could make if you're trying to have an affair, right? It just seemed to me that it was front and center for everyone who was close
Yeah.
to us.
Yeah. So, what caused you to go from I'm involved with this person to I'm not involved with this person, and I'm going to get better? What was the transition? What was the catalyst and the cause for that happening?
Well, I think there were a couple of things, right? I mean, I think ultimately I came to recognize the affair for what it was, and that was just a financial bridge for this woman as she moved from one situation to another, right? But really the most important thing was Laura. Laura fought fiercely for the marriage. She never gave up. I mean, she was certainly angry and had obviously a right to be so, and she was very demanding in what she was expecting of me if we were going to continue to stay married. But she, I think, as she would say, she loved me the most when I loved her the least.
Yeah, that's what she
Right?
did
She never
say.
gave up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
She
one.
sure
That's one of
did.
her favorite expressions, and it's perfect here. And she never gave up. And when I could see that, she was faithful to me and giving me certainly more grace than I deserved, I recognized, what I stood to lose, right? That and my daughters, who are in their 30s, they knew, and they were on my mind and on my heart. And I just realized that, where I was where God wanted me to be. And I had to come to understand myself better
Yeah.
so that I could be available for Laura and the family going forward.
Well, Rod, explain this a little bit. The power that lust and that illicit relationship. Explain to someone how a responsible, nice, Bible-believing guy can get sucked into that evil vortex that just swirls downward and brings you with it. How does that happen?
On the one hand, that's a very difficult thing for me to even understand, right? But on the other hand, I guess maybe it's obvious. I think when I was talking the talk, but not walking the walk, right? I mean, I think I was closed off, and I think there was more of a unhealthy approach that I had to women over the years, maybe a need to rescue, right? That would allowed me to become enmeshed, I think, with somebody who fit that profile perfectly. All right, the enemy couldn't have set up a better lure for me.
Yeah.
Right, so rather than face the hard work, I made one choice after another, one series of bad choices that gradually grew into the affair. Right? I mean, I still don't really know exactly how that happened, other than I just found it easier to connect in a superficial way through this affair than I did to really be vulnerable and raw with the friends who love me, with my wife, and with God.
Well, it probably is just the age-old combination of the temptation's there, the despair's in the heart, and if you don't run away from that temptation, you're gonna, get sucked into it. When we come back, we'll talk about how life is and what you could do if you're struggling in an affair or to repair a relationship after one.
It's hard to find a trusted friend when you're in crisis, someone who's been there and understands. but who also has the training and skill to give you practical help. Family, friends, and churches want to help, but often they're not equipped to care for those dealing with problems like addiction and pornography, infidelity, anger, depression. New Life Ministries is here to provide help and hope in life's hardest places. We're not focused on making people feel better. We're focused on helping people do the work that will help them be better. At New Life, we have resources available to help you, like books, DVDs, CDs, workshops, and our network of licensed counselors. If you need help, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE and begin your new life today.
Welcome back to Life Recovery Today. We're talking with Rod. And Rod, you were involved in church, you were active, successful, and you got sidetracked there and you ended up in an affair. How did you pull this back together? Your wife was willing to work with you, but you didn't instantly just jump back into getting better, did you?
No, I didn't. I was really blessed with having all of the components of a successful recovery around me the whole time, right? I had friends, men who confronted me immediately when they found out about the affair. They stayed close to me throughout. A wife who loved me, obviously, and was working hard to save the marriage. We got into counseling. We found a New Life counselor here. We went to the marriage intensive. I went to EMB. I even did Jason's empathy masterclass. I stayed connected with the pastors at our church. They offered me a lot of grace. So I had all the tools, but I still resisted, right? Because I found it so difficult to, and there was a lot of shame, right? And a lot of pride and,
Sure.
and some fear. And I became defensive about, many things that I had done and found it very difficult to come clean with Laura about a lot of the things that happened, right? So that went on. I don't remember how long it was. Laura probably gave you a pretty accurate time, maybe another 8-10 months, where I guess I held out for a little while to see what was going to happen, one way or the other. And
what caused the shift? What caused you to finally say, or to get into full healing and recovery versus that resistance you had?
I became exhausted. I was just at the bottom. I had constant anxiety. My stomach hurt. I couldn't focus on anything. The Holy Spirit was working on me all the time. I just knew that I had done the wrong thing, and that the Lord had put me where He wanted me to be, and that recovery, reconciliation, and restoration were really the only things that was going to save my life, right? I mean, I had a history of depression, and the depression was really cycling back in a very strong way. I went to a Christian psychiatrist, got some medication for the depression, sort of balance that out. But it was just coming to the end of myself, which is where every man has to be, right, before he can fully commit to honest vulnerability and recovery. And that's what
Good.
really,
Yeah.
And then, Laura and I did a bunch of comfort circles. We spent a lot of time going over how we love. I found out what my attachment style was. We worked on a lot of things that I should have worked on 30, 40 years ago.
Well, you had a willingness to at least comply with the program, and then a willingness finally to do the work that was required. What do you say to a guy who's, he knows he's in trouble, but he's just not there yet? What do you say to that guy who hasn't decided, I have to stop whatever I'm doing and start getting better, but he's stuck?
Well, I think, the word is willingness. You've got to be willing to search yourself, to understand, to do the work, I guess, right? To do the work to find out what it is. What is the affair is the manifestation of something that's deeply rooted, and to find out what that is, to work on it, to understand that the affairs, and I've heard you say this hundreds of times on the show, right? 5 years down the road, you're going to wish you had done the work. If you don't, do it now, right?
Yeah.
Connect with people who love you. Be honest about what you're thinking, even if it's some ugly stuff, and get some help. Go into counseling, right? Explore the patterns, the unhealthy patterns, thought patterns, behaviors that led you to to having the problems with yourself that led you into whatever kind of a relationship you had outside of marriage, whether it's pornography or physical, emotional affairs or whatever.
Yeah. So you guys, you've overcome the betrayal. You've really gotten on board to do whatever it takes to be a better man. What do the two of you do now to keep the relationship healthy and growing? Is there anything that would be helpful for other people to know, that after betrayal you could do some things to keep the marriage working better and better?
Yeah, oh yeah. From my perspective, from the man's side, right? But whoever, the betrayer's side, be intentional about seeking the heart of your spouse, right? I'm much more intentional about really listening to Laura. I don't think I heard her words over the years. I didn't really hear her heart. So I listen to what she says now, right? I'm much more attuned to her needs, to making sure she feels secure and safe in the marriage, right? And to just be available to her in a way that I never could have been before, when I didn't even understand myself and didn't really know what it meant to be vulnerable. It's just vulnerability and intentional connection.
I think so many men are afraid to be vulnerable, and they resist any invitation to do that. Like it's going to make them less of a man or kind of weaken them a bit. But it doesn't. It really, you're stepping up and becoming the dream husband when you start to do that. Isn't that right?
Yeah. I mean, vulnerability is the key, right? I mean, society and culture and those kinds of things, weigh against that, as you said, but you can't really be a man. And I'm reading Soul of a Hero right now, right? I mean, and I realize that vulnerability, tenderness is really the key to be a man. And you can still be a man's man. You can still hunt and shoot and chop wood and drive a tractor or play football, whatever it is, right? And be tender and vulnerable and seek the heart of a woman, right, of your wife.
Yeah. Well, it seems like to me that a lot of people do things, a lot of us men do things to try to make ourselves feel good quickly or immediately, instantly. But in the end, we don't feel good about ourselves. And when I hear you talk, I'm listening to a man. It seems like you feel pretty good about the way things are going and the way the marriage has developed. Let's say a woman is married to somebody who's been in trouble, and like you, resisting, knowing I need to do some work, but resisting it. What would you say to her with this resistant guy who's not quite committed to making things right?
Well, I would say don't give up on him, but also expect him to do the work.
Yeah.
To become willing, right? I mean, he's, at the end of the day, he's got to decide that he wants to get healthy, he wants to get better, and he wants to reconnect with you, right? I mean, you can offer him grace, but at the same time, you can expect a measure of truth, right? I mean, there's a good balance there. So, if he shows any willingness at all, encourage him, help him find counseling, right? Help him connect with godly men, right? Make sure he's, that you give him opportunities to connect. But you need to set some firm boundaries with the guy too, right? I mean,
and your wife said all of those things, and I love it that you guys are supporting each other in exactly the same way. I wish we had more time. Rob, thank you for joining us. God bless you and stay the course.
Life recovery isn't just about making the courageous choice to give up an addiction or dependency. It's a journey towards health, wholeness, and becoming your very best you. If you need resources to help you in your journey, we can help. There are many life recovery resources that you can do on your own, with a group, or with your church. We have Bibles, workbooks, and devotionals that you can use to work your recovery right where you are. That's the beauty of life recovery. To learn more or to get the Life Recovery Bible or any other life recovery resource, visit liferecoverytoday.net or call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
Welcome back to Life Recovery Today. Last week we had Laura, and this week we had Rod, and what I feel from them is one of the gifts of life recovery, and that is the gift of security. Look at how they are secure in their relationship because there's no threat. They've taken care of the temptation stuff. And also, they know all the stuff that needs to be known. It's all out in the open. There are no secrets. There's no need to hide. But I was so impressed with what Rod said about his desire to meet her needs, his desire as a man to become vulnerable. And he resisted, and then it sounds like to me, he got in there into recovery, and he is one committed, connected husband to a woman who had tremendous grace and mercy over the humiliation of an emotional affair with a person the age of their children. Well, I want you to know that if you're feeling insecure, you don't have that gift in your life, there's some reasons for that. One could be secrecy, and the other could be a lack of trust, faith, and surrender to God. You know, God is real. I can't imagine what it takes in a person's mind to think that all of this, is just an accident of the universe. It isn't, and I'm glad we have a God that is for us, loves us, and rich in mercy. Have a great, great week. We'll see you next time right here on Life Recovery Today.
Thanks for joining us for Life Recovery Today with Stephen Arterburn. We hope this program has helped you integrate God's truth and wisdom into your recovery journey. This program is brought to you by New Life Ministries, and it's your support that keeps this program on the air. When you contact us for any reason, be sure to let us know that you watch on NRB. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE or go to liferecoverytoday.net. Please join us again next week for more Life Recovery Today.